The Kansas City Chiefs are in deep trouble, and it blows my mind how everybody is ignoring it. Y'all do realize that as good as a coach as Andy Reid is, arguably the best head coach in NFL history, he's in the division with three other future Hall of Fame coaches. Last year, Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton led their teams to the playoffs despite not having that much talent and having salary cap constraints. Can you imagine how good both of those two teams are going to be next season now that they have money to spend in free agency? The Chargers have the fifth most cap space available going into the free agency period, and the Denver Broncos have a good amount of cap space as well. And then you have Pete Carroll, who is the new head coach of the Raiders. You have a division that's home to four Hall of Fame coaches. This is the toughest division in the NFL now. It no longer is the AFC North. The Raiders are not going to be a slouch next season. The Broncos and the Chargers are one good offseason away from catapulting themselves into the Super Bowl conversation. They got it all now. They got good coaches. They got stability at quarterback. Now they just need to continue to improve their roster. And the gap between them and Kansas City won't be wide anymore. If anything, the AFC West is wide open at this point due to the huge question marks the Kansas City Chiefs now have. You are losing a few marquee free agents like Justin Reid. He's going to be on the free agency market. You're probably not going to have enough money to keep him around, and you probably aren't going to have enough money to improve your offensive line. They now need another offensive guard, and they need two offensive tackles. Right tackle, you still have Jawan Taylor. You probably aren't going to be able to move on from him until the end of this year. And then at left tackle, you're going to have to figure out a solution to that problem. Maybe you can find a good bargain in free agency, or maybe you can strike oil in the draft, even though this isn't really that good of an offensive tackle class. But the Chiefs are in a situation where this is probably their most important offseason under their Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes regime. Because if they end up not being able to improve their offensive line and they end up looking like how they did during last season, yeah, they went fit. Yeah, they only lost one game. Technically, the last game didn't count because they benched their starters. But the way they won last year isn't sustainable. You can't expect to win every single game, blocking field goals, getting somewhat lucky in the end with certain calls and whatnot. With the Chargers and the Broncos about to elevate the level of talent on their team, the Kansas City Chiefs now are not in a position where you can just look at them and say, yeah, it's a guarantee that they're going to win the AFC West. And eventually, we're going to reach a point in time where the Chiefs are no longer as dominant as what they've been these last couple of years. Do you know how insane it is that Patrick Mahomes has been one game shy of the Super Bowl every single season he's been the starter of the Kansas City Chiefs? That's insanity. The worst season that the Chiefs have ever had was them losing in the AFC Championship to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's it. Eventually, you're going to reach a slowdown point where they end up losing early in the playoffs. Not saying they end up losing the wild card, but they probably end up losing in the divisional round because the talent in this division is at an all-time high. And we saw the Patriots dynasty get to a point where they started to slow down and they weren't in the Super Bowl for at least 4 or 5 years. Like, Kansas City is eventually going to get back and win another Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're never going to win another one, but what I am telling you guys is that with how difficult the AFC West has now become, Kansas City, their path to the AFC Championship has just got a lot more difficult. Now, there's no guarantee that you're always going to have a home field playoff game from winning this division. It's not easy anymore. You're not going to get an easy sweep against the Chargers or the Broncos or even the Raiders anymore. There's a good chance that you could split with all three teams. Hell, you could finish in third place next season and still be in the playoffs. The AFC West could have 3 playoff teams next year. This is no longer a division that it's just home to the Chiefs winning it so easily every single year, like the Patriots used to do with the AFC East. One thing that the Patriots never had to worry about was going up against a Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton or Pete Carroll. They didn't have to worry about going up against 3 other Hall of Fame coaches 2 times in the season, going up against 2 promising young quarterbacks in Justin Herbert and Bo Nix. This division is too tough for the Kansas City Chiefs to continue to dominate the way they have over these last couple years. I expect for us to have a new AFC West division champion for the first time in a very long time this upcoming season. I know it's very early in the offseason to say that. The Chiefs, they could make a few moves that surprise us to fill these 3 big holes that they have on the offensive line. But, you know, with how much spending power the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders have, and with the talent they got at coaching as well, it's just hard for me to fathom the Chiefs dynasty continuing to dominate and run shot all over the AFC any longer. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where this division, they're on the same level as Kansas City. It's just they got to prove it on the field, and I expect to see that happen this year.